in public universities again. It is saddening that today we are still talking about implementing elements of the agreement that the federal government reached with the academic staff of universities, ASUU, in 2009. You may wish to know that the failure of the government to fully implement the agreement has led to a series of strikes, generating and entering into memorandum of understanding, memorandum of action between the government and ASUU, and other forms of engagements. In spite of all the engagements, the federal government has a notorious history of failing to implement agreements it had duly reached with ASUU. There is a 2009 agreement reached by ASUU and Federal Government of Nigeria, FGN. In spite of the fact that the agreement was long overdue for renegotiation, ASUU-FGN in May 2021 renegotiated the agreement. To date, the FGN has been playing the ostrich, in effect not signed the renegotiated 2009 agreement. This press conference is therefore a patriotic call on the federal government of Nigeria, led by President Muhammad Buhari, to expeditiously sign and implement the renegotiated 2009 ASUU-FGN agreement, or face the consequences of a total and indefinite strike. Highlights of the issues include non-release of the needs assessment funds for the revitalization of public universities. In March 2020, Memorandum of Action, it is specified that 30 billion naira offered by the federal government as part of the tranche of 220 billion naira should be paid to the universities on or before 31st January 2021. To date, this has not been implemented as agreed. Payment of earned academic allowance. Government has failed in the payment of the Earned Academic Allowance, EAA, for excess workload as agreed. In the federal universities, the EAA payment for May 2021 to date is still outstanding. The same scenario sadly plays out in some state universities. In Imo State University, for instance, the government is yet to implement the payment and mainstreaming of the EAA, in spite of the fact that the payment of the EAA is a product of collective bargaining between the government and ASUU. The Integrated Personnel and Payroll and University Transparency and Accountability Solution. The current FGN implementation of Integrated Personnel and Payroll Information System, IPIS, is fraught with such consequences as mutilated and disjointed salary payments, non-payment of promotion arrears, non-remittance of statutory deductions such as pensions contributions, union dues, welfare dues, and others. As a result, ASUU promoted the development of a homegrown system known as University Transparency and Accountability Solution, UTAS, that takes care of all the deficiencies of the IPIS. Yet, the government, after undertaking a successful integrity test of UTAS, has refused to put it into use, with all the challenges experienced with salary payments under the IPIS regime still being encountered. Gentlemen of the press, it may interest you to know that today, the take-home pay of a professor in Nigerian public universities is less than $1,000 from the $3,000 it was in 2009. That is factoring in the exchange rate. This is really shameful, pathetic, and avoidable retardation in our march towards improving the quality of our university education system. Regrettably, efforts aimed at getting the government to give attention to these problems have failed. It is laughable today to hear agents of government claiming that the government entered into these agreements, MOUs, MOAs, under duress. This is a cock and bull story. It is simply incredible and preposterous. As in the tradition of ASUU, We recognize the important place of the press as the fourth estate of the realm in carrying out the message of our plight to the attention of the general public, the government, and all relevant stakeholders. So, this press conference is a clear signal that our union has reached the limits of our patience as we are being pushed into embarking on a total and indefinite strike, only a few months after one was suspended. Let me clearly state that we no longer tolerate any more MOUs, MOAs, or agreements until the existing ones are fully implemented. When the next music begins to play, there will be no break until we see the concrete implementation of the demands. We, therefore, appeal to well-meaning Nigerians, traditional rulers, religious leaders, civil society organizations, leaders of thought, and all other stakeholders to prevail on the government to sign and implement the agreements is reached with ASUU. We also employ parents, students, and the masses to join hands and associate with ASUU in this struggle to rescue public universities from going the way of primary and secondary schools, while the public schools have almost completely been displaced by the private schools. Except the government committedly works to resolve these issues, there will be no peace for all of us. Again, when the music begins to play, there will be no break until all the objectives are met. Signed, Comrade Augustine Odinakachukwu Ejogu, Chairperson, ASUU-IMSU. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
We appreciate the chairperson. We appreciate it properly for the press conference.